everyone, my name is Rachel. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I am doing something that is going to be so much fun and so exciting for me. I'm doing a 24-hour readathon. I haven't done one of these in, I want to say about a year, because the first time I did one was back in like February of 2019. I will link that up in the cards above. I think I had to do that for like a specific readathon that I was participating in. I think maybe it was the BookTube games, and then there was a 24-hour smutathon, and I also participated in that, and that was in August of 2019, so I will also link that up in the cards above. Both times that I've done these readathons, I've had such a fun time, and I really end up getting a ton of reading done. So right now it is just about 11:20, and I am planning on starting this readathon right at midnight, which will technically be Monday, so midnight on Monday to midnight on Tuesday, if that makes sense. And I am planning on working on 3 books during this 24-hour readathon. I don't know if I'm necessarily going to finish any of them. I hope to at least finish one of the 3, but we will just have to see. So the first 2 books I have physical copies of, and then I have an e-arc that I got off of NetGalley that I also really want to work on. The first book that I'm working on currently is the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. This is what it looks like. And this, it seems like it's kind of a satirical horror novel that's placed in like the late 1980s into the 1990s, and it follows this woman, Patricia. She is a very typical mother of 2, and she is a part of this book club with a lot of the other ladies in her neighborhood, and then this guy James moves to town because his great aunt is elderly and needs help from him. So pretty much at the very beginning of this book, Patricia goes out to take out the garbage late at night, and she finds Mrs. Savage, who is the great aunt of James, who I just mentioned before, and she's like eating a raccoon and acting really weird, and she starts attacking Patricia. So Mrs. Savage ends up going to the hospital because they think maybe she's got rabies, like we don't really know, and then she ends up dying in the hospital, and this is all in like the first 50 pages. So we've got that mysterious thing going on, and then James, who, like I said, he just moved to town. He acts kind of weird. He seems to have some kind of like medical condition where he can't really be out in direct sunlight. Also interesting because Patricia seems to be kind of attracted to him, so we will see where the story goes from here. I'm on page, like, let's see, 104. I'm just about 25% of the way through the book. So yeah, we haven't really gotten to the main plot of this yet, but I'm finding it really interesting. I like Grady Hendrix's writing style. Yeah, we will just have to see if I'm able to get through this whole book within the 24-hour period, because I have like over 300 pages of this book left, so I'm not going to put any pressure on myself, but if it happens, that would be great. And then the other physical book that I have is White Fragility: Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism by Robin DiAngelo. I mentioned this book a little bit in my July TBR because I also have White Rage, which is by Carol Anderson, on my July TBR as well. And I'm so glad that my physical copy of this came in because I really wanted to read this the same month that I read White Rage. So, I mean, it pretty much tells you what this book is all about. I'm gonna look in the table of contents for you guys. So I'll just name off a few of the chapters to you guys. The first one says the challenges of talking to white people about racism, racism and white supremacy, racism after the civil rights movement. There's definitely a lot of interesting topics being brought up in this book. For those of you guys that don't know, Robin DiAngelo is a white author. I think she's a psychologist, and she is well known for doing like these diversity consultations where she will go to various different companies and talk to the employees about race and how to talk about race and all of those things. And I was very skeptical going into this book, I'm not going to lie, because reading a book about race written by a white person to me felt a little bit yikes, and I don't think I'm the only person that feels that way. But I have to say I'm actually learning quite a bit from this book. I don't know if you can tell, but I already have quite a few tabs in this. And this is also one of those books that I can already tell is just a really great starting point, similar to So You Want to Talk About Race, which is by Ijoma Oluo. I read that book last month and really loved it, gave it 5 stars. That's also a book that is just a really great starting point in terms of educating yourself about race and racial issues. So yeah, I am hoping to finish this in the 24-hour period because this book is only like 150-ish pages, and right now I'm on page 89. So I think it's possible, but we will just have to see, because with nonfiction, it definitely takes me longer to get through and to retain information and things like that, which is also why I tend to tab my nonfiction books so that I can actually retain the information. And then the third book I want to at least start during this 24 hours is The Voting Booth by Brandy Colbert. Brandy Colbert is a very popular YA contemporary author. She's written books such as Little and Lion, which is a book that I still need to read. It is on my shelves right over here, actually. She's also written Finding Yvonne and a couple of other really popular YA contemporaries. She is definitely an author that I need to check out. So I'm very excited to read this e-arc. I did get this off of NetGalley, so thank you so much to NetGalley and the publisher for approving my request for this. And this essentially centers around Marva and Duke. Marva is essentially kind of a part of, like, it seems like a campaign team for a very important election. Maybe it's the presidential election, I'm not really sure. And then there's this guy Duke who gets turned away at the voting booth. And so essentially Marva's goal throughout this whole book is to make sure that Duke's vote gets counted. This book sounds like it has very similar vibes to The Sun is Also a Star, which is a book that I still need to read. But I know the plot of that one and it sounds very similar just because it takes place all in one day and it's a romance and it's YA, contemporary, and things like that. So I'm very excited to get to this. This comes out July 7th, which is the day after this readathon happens. So I'm hoping to at least get through like a good chunk of it if I don't finish it. I think I'm gonna read for a few hours and then I will update you guys. Hey guys, so it's just about 2 a.m. right now, so I've been reading for the past couple of hours. I've actually made quite a bit of progress on the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires. I don't know why that title is so difficult for me to say. But I am loving this book right now. So I started on page 103 right at about midnight and I am now on page 219 and I think I'm just about 55% of the way through. And my initial plan with this readathon was that I was going to switch between the 3 books that I talked about in the last clip. So I was gonna read a good chunk of this and then switch to The Voting Booth, which is the NetGalley arc that I want to get to. But I am just so invested in this story that I just need to finish it. And so far, it's definitely a 5-star read. The story is so good. I love the pacing. I really enjoy Grady Hendrix's writing style. The only thing that is frustrating me so much with this book is the amount of gaslighting. Oh my goodness. So Patricia, our main character, she has seen some pretty messed up things so far in this book. Things have happened to her, things have happened to other characters, and she has legit seen James, who was the man that moved to their town, do some pretty weird and messed up things. So she has gone to the women in her book club to make a case for him, and at first they didn't really believe her, so there was some gaslighting with that. They were definitely telling her that she was just seeing things and it wasn't real, and so then eventually she got them onto her side. And so then they just had this big discussion with all of their husbands and there was just so much gaslighting. Oh my god, like, why is it so difficult to just believe women? Like, I know that this story that Patricia is telling them is really outlandish and like really outrageous, but like, why can't you just like listen to women? Like, why is that so difficult? So yeah, definitely be aware of that before going into this book. So yeah, I hate all of the husbands right now and I'm just so invested that yeah, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and keep working on it. I have this last chunk of the book to read and I think I'll finish it probably in the next few hours because I made a lot of progress in the past couple of hours because I do have the audiobook off of Libby. I've been really getting into the habit of listening to the audiobook while physically reading at the same time, and I actually get through books a lot faster that way. I'm loving it and I will talk to you guys later. It is 5:08 a.m. right now and I just finished the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix, and yes, I'm speaking kind of lower because everybody's asleep in my house except me. This was fantastic. I'm giving this 5 stars. Wow. There are a lot of crazy things that happened in this book. Like, at times I literally would like throw down my copy onto my bed and just like sit here for a few seconds because I was like, oh no, like there were just crazy things, bad things, awful things, amazing things happening in this book. And I just loved that this book centers around, you know, Southern housewives and pits them against a vampire. Even in Grady Hendrix's author's note, he talks about wanting to write a book where he would pit his mother against Dracula. And I just thought it was so, so well done. I just loved how everything came together. This is an amazing, amazing horror slash thriller novel. I do want to point out that there are some pretty dark things going on. I think I mentioned this in an earlier clip. He does a really good job of writing gory events in the least gory way possible. There are things in this book like domestic abuse, which that occurs off the page. There is sexual assault, and of course there's lots and lots of blood. So just to name a few things. So yeah, this book does go into some pretty dark places at times, so just be aware of that. At the same time, I do think it's balanced really well with like the book club and the characters and things like that. So yeah, it's just so well done. I have a feeling that this is going to be one of my top favorite books of the year. That's how much I loved this. Also, if you're someone that doesn't read horror or you've never read horror before, this is a book that I would recommend starting with because, like I said, it's well balanced. It's not dark and scary the entire time. So yeah, it's about 5 a.m. I think I'm going to take a break from reading. It's not that I'm tired or anything because my sleep schedule, y'all, has been terrible. I've been going to bed at like 5 a.m. and then waking up at like 1 p.m. And then today, in addition to that, I also took a nap. So I'm definitely not tired or anything. I think just mentally, because I powered through like 75% of this book since midnight, that my brain is a little bit tired from that. And yeah, I'm thinking this is gonna be my last update of the night, because I think what I'm gonna do is like get started on the voting booth, get through a chunk of that, and then I'll probably end up taking a nap because I knew that like I wasn't going to be able to read, you know, straight through 24 hours. I know that I need at least a nap, so I think I'll probably take a nap after reading some of that book. But yeah, I will update you guys later. All right, it is just about 12:40 in the afternoon. So just to give you guys a quick update, because I do want to go downstairs and eat some lunch because I'm very hungry. I read the first 15% of The Voting Booth by Brandy Colbert. I'm really liking it so far. I'll delve more into the plot once I've read more of it, but it's paced really well because I like flew through the first 15%. So I do think I'll be able to read at least like half of the book today. We will just have to see. So after I read a bit of Voting Booth, I did end up going to sleep at like 7 a.m. and then I woke up at noon. I did try to wake up a little bit before that, maybe like 10:30, 11, but I was very tired, and also it's been raining a lot here at home, and so when it rains I just want to keep sleeping. And then once I go downstairs, I am planning on working on White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo, because I do think I could definitely finish that book today. So I think I'll work on that one first and then go back to the voting booth. So it is just about like 6:10 p.m. still Monday, of course, and I did get quite a bit of reading done. Not as much as I would have liked because I kept getting distracted by Twitter because there's always drama on book Twitter, like literally every single day there's something new. So I kept getting distracted by that, but I did finish White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo, and I'm giving this 4 stars. I did learn a lot from this book, but at the end of the day, it was quite repetitive, and that's not necessarily a bad thing because it did really get her information across very clearly, but at the same time I did find it to be a little tedious after a while because she would essentially just like slightly reword the same things over and over again. Also, I want to say that this is one of those books that, first of all, I think every white person should read. I would also encourage people of color, Black people, Indigenous people to check this book out as well if you're interested. I don't think it's 100% necessary for you to read this. I really think that this is a book by a white author for white people. But if you want to kind of broaden your horizons, I would say, you know, give it a shot. This book really only covers the very tip of the iceberg with these issues, but it did educate me specifically about this term white fragility and what it is, how it comes to be, how it kind of developed over time, and how it's kind of gotten worse. If you are curious, it's gotten worse since the civil rights movement because now we're living in like a colorblind society, and this book does delve into why being colorblind is kind of harmful. So I did want to bring that up briefly, but yeah, I do recommend it. I settled on giving this 4 stars. I also read a bit more of The Voting Booth by Brandy Colbert. I am now 36% of the way through. I don't think I'm gonna finish this today, and that's totally fine. To kind of delve a little bit more deeply into the plot, we've got Marva and Duke. Marva, she's not working for a campaign team, but she's someone who's really into voter rights, as really all of us should be. And she's been canvassing, and she is really involved with like driving the elderly to the voting booth and things like that, because we really all should be utilizing our right to vote no matter what side of the party line that you're on. So when she sees this guy Duke, who is our other main character, get turned away at the polling booth, essentially because his name is not on the registration list, and so it kind of turns into like a wild goose chase of getting his vote to count. I think I'm gonna do one final update at about midnight when this 24-hour readathon is over. So I'll talk to you guys more about this book then. All right, guys, so it is just about 11:30, 11:40 p.m. And given that we only have about 20 minutes left of the readathon, I'm going ahead and calling it quits. And I actually did finish The Voting Booth by Brandy Colbert. This was a really solid YA contemporary novel. I really enjoyed it. I really liked how organically Brandy Colbert developed this relationship between Duke and Marva, who are our 2 main characters. You know, this book only takes place in the span of like a day. The fact that she was able to develop their relationship in a really believable way is very commendable in my opinion. I also appreciated how this book brought up some really important topics such as voter suppression, and I actually learned a couple of things about voting in general, which was kind of surprising. That just goes to show you, even if you're an adult reading YA novels, you can definitely still learn a thing or two. So yeah, I'm giving this a very solid 4 star. I would definitely recommend checking it out, especially if you're already a fan of Brandy Colbert. This was my first Brandy Colbert, of course, so I'm really looking forward to reading her other novels in the very near future. And this book comes out on Tuesday, July 7th, which for me, when I'm filming this, is in like 20 or 30 minutes. So when this video is posted, the book will already be out. So I definitely recommend checking it out from your local library or purchasing a copy for yourself. Okay, so that is going to be it for this 24-hour readathon. Just to kind of recap everything that I read, I have the Southern Book Club's Guide to Slaying Vampires by Grady Hendrix. When I started this readathon, I was on page like 103, and there are just about 400 pages in this book. So I read 300-ish pages of this, and then the other book I have is White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. I read like a little over 60 pages of this, and then I read the entirety of The Voting Booth by Brandy Colbert. So I will calculate how many pages total that is and put the number here. But this was a very successful 24-hour readathon. I definitely need to do these more often because I do have a lot of fun filming these vlogs for you guys, and also reading as much as possible in 24 hours is really fun as well. I'm also really surprised that I'm not exhausted. Like, what even is my brain? Because I only got about like 4 hours of sleep. So what is going on? With that being said, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I would love it if you would leave a comment down below if you want to discuss any of the books that I brought up in this video, and I would also love it if you would leave a like and subscribe, and I thank you in advance if you do. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!